If you grill it, he will come.
Hey.
Hey.
Is this heaven?
Nope. It's Fareway.
Let's rodeo at the Cinch World's Toughest Rodeo, January 10th and 11th at Wells Fargo Arena. It's rodeo and a whole lot more. Come early for autographs, pony rides, and more. See more action, the best entertainment, and be part of the fun. It's too great to wait. Get tickets now at HighVTix.com. It's wild, it's western, it's pro rodeo at the Cinch World's Toughest Rodeo, January 10th and 11th.
Two guys, two Chris's, one network. Iowa Everywhere. It's time for Two Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
Happy Thursday and welcome to Two Guys with Chris and Chris here on Iowa Everywhere. Maddie Van Winks and the baby will be making a cameo at some point. My name is Chris Williams. I'm joined as always by Chris Hassel. We'll check in on Florida, everything going on down there.
The baby, are you referring to Aiden Wyatt, who's also with us today?
Perhaps, yeah. No, Van Winkle, I saw him holding a baby.
Yeah, the placenta baby's going to make an appearance today for sure.
Child. Yeah.
Look at Aiden's setup. Are those shoes you have behind you?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, this isn't all of my shoes. I left some space so I could get.
Incredible.
Look at you. Look at you.
I'll sodomize a leaf, but man, you find him with a shoe in a back alley and look out. It's triple X.
Oh, well, what a start to the show. I want to give a shout out to all the great farmers in the state of Iowa because harvest is going on right now, and I bet you money that hundreds of you are either watching us live on YouTube or downloading the podcast later on. The channel Seedsman. Really do want to encourage people to subscribe to Iowa Everywhere on YouTube. It's wild that YouTube is becoming the most popular place to take in the show in all of our shows, but still the majority of people who watch it don't subscribe. They just search for it every day, which is blasphemous. So much easier just to hit the subscribe button. And then
a lot of times you think you're subscribed, but you're not.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, welcome
subscribe,
to the program.
like, follow, leave us a review.
And tell
I was
us
looking
how
at
great we are.
I was looking at our Apple reviews the other day, and the latest review was my favorite. It's 5 stars. It's from Hawkeye Guy 56274. It just says Hassel, Hawks, and Placenta Talks. Sums it up pretty nice.
Yeah, it's funny. I shared Awful Announcing did a piece on like the state of the union on the industry the other day, and I shared 2 paragraphs from it because it was basically exactly what we decided to do 2.5 years ago, and they're saying, yeah, this is what people are starting to do now. And I'm trying to educate our audience on what we're doing. We're not just a couple of hack. Well, we are, but we're trying to build something for our state in the future here. Like, there's really a good cause to this too. And one of the guys who actually it's Van Winkle's buddy Schneider, Andrew, responded to it. He goes, "Yeah, it's great. We get a lot more placenta talk too than we did when you were on the radio." Well. It's funny how that just sticks with us. But
I thought we left that in 2020.
We tried. We really tried.
We can't. On that note, I was texting with Andrew Downs. I got to meet up with him later. He's going to get a tee shot later. Downs is getting all teed up. Everything's working. Everything's working, baby. Let's get after it.
Don't you want to ask how I'm doing? I mean, my God.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. I was going to tease we got Iowa and Iowa State with big games this weekend.
Big games.
And then he won't care if I share this. So our friend Icon Dan McCarney lives in Sarasota.
Oh, gosh.
And I texted him yesterday. I was like, Mac, are you okay? Like, everything good? And he's like, yeah, I got everything boarded up. Everything's good. He goes, this goddamn weather's fucking gone batshit crazy, Chris. Imagine Dan saying it and that. But yeah, we were all of us Iowans were locked into the news last night watching the storm roll through. Matt showing Tropicana Field right here that got, the dome ripped off and all that stuff. How are you? I know you're on the other side of the state, but
yeah,
is it
look,
just raining or
we lucked out again. We still haven't in the 7 years I've lived here been really impacted by a hurricane in this southeastern part of the state. We got tropical storm winds, but nothing big. And the weirdest thing about this hurricane is that there was no rain on the bottom half of the hurricane. It was all just wind. It knocked our power out at 5 a.m. this morning, but it came back on right quick. But I think there's over 3 million people in the state without power. I mean, anywhere this hurricane went, the path that it went, you're probably without power right now.
Forgive me because I don't just stay glued to CNN all day, but isn't it less? It's not as powerful as they thought it would be. Is that correct? I mean,
well,
it's
not as powerful as it was. It was Category 5, but they were calling for it to be a 3 when it landed, and it was. It was a Category 3.
All right, gotcha.
And it's a ton of rain in Tampa, and then the storm surged south of there, like Sarasota and points south. But we don't even have a tree down or anything. I mean, it's just a few branches or whatever, but nothing big. So we're fine. I hope everything's okay. It's the start of the day, first light because the thing came in overnight. I hope things are all right in Tampa and Orlando and all those places. But
my favorite place in the world is Anna Maria Island. We vacationed there like 5 times, honeymoon down there, and that place just keeps getting pounded.
Well, I have
these in a row. God.
I have friends that have a house in Clearwater Beach,
and
right in
the same area.
The last hurricane that came through, Helene, didn't even go through there, but there was so much storm surge, they got 8 feet of water in their house. 8 feet, and they have a ranch, so it was the whole house was underwater, and they just went over there and took everything out of the house to the curb because it's all ruined, it's all destroyed. The floors are destroyed, the cabinets are destroyed, everything, and then this thing comes through, and it's almost a direct hit again, and I'm sure it's underwater again today. It's
well, and we
crazy.
do have listeners down there, so shout out to all of you guys.
Hope everybody's all right.
We appreciate you. Hopefully we can make you laugh a little bit today. We are presented, as always, by Fareway Meat and Grocery. If we have a listener in the Tampa area, please email me, Chris M. Williams at CycloneFanatic.com. I would like to send you and your family a Fareway meat box. I mean,
and it won't take a year like the one he promised me.
I will make sure you get your Fareway meat, and I mean that. Great people at Fareway, and I'm sure they'd love to be a part of that promotion as well. Iowa, Washington, Iowa State with one of the biggest games in program history. They all are, as long as you're undefeated this year. Coming up this weekend at West Virginia, and just a giant weekend of college football in general with Ohio State, Oregon. There's just a lot of big games. Texas, Oklahoma, if you're into that sort of thing, if you're into that sort of like fetish of college football, watching Oklahoma continue to lose is always fun for me. I wanted to talk a little bit of college basketball media days, and Hassel was a total dick about it. Could not have been a bigger
Get out of
dick.
here with college basketball.
If your team was going to be in the top 10, you'd want to talk about them too.
No, I wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't. Get out of here with that. I do not want to hear about college basketball we're just ramping into the conference football season.
Hey, I'm not wanting to go. I'm wanting to go like an inch deep, baby. I'm not wanting to
Just
like
the
talk
tip?
about just slide it in there, see how it feels, get out, move back on. But no, we don't have to. It's fine.
We'll see. I mean,
no, we don't have to.
if we talk about it, it's going to be buried at the very end of the show.
We don't have to do it. It's fine. I understand. Jesus. We'll start with Iowa State because they are the 11th ranked team in the country, and they are going to West Virginia in a really interesting spot. I'll tell you right now, like for people in Vegas, this is a classic bet West Virginia spot before we even analyze it. When you look at just the way it lays out, West Virginia's played a tougher schedule, more tested. They come off of a bye, looked really good last week at Oklahoma State.
That's a good point you brought up about the schedule, because I am a little worried about Iowa State schedule-wise in who have they played? What have they proven? And
I think it's totally fair.
The best team they played is Iowa, and how good is Iowa?
I think it's a totally fair critique of Iowa State, and we kind of knew that, right? I mean, when we were analyzing this schedule in June, we're like, it's soft at the start, and then it gets a lot tougher once they hit this game, right? Like, this was the game that we circled when we did our show in Ankeny together, where we both had them down for their first loss.
Yep, we had Iowa State perfect going into West Virginia. You're right.
So this game's just it's a bad spot from that standpoint. Anytime you have a top 10, 15 type team, and they're either an underdog on the road or a slight favorite, the handicappers will always play the home unranked team. Example comes to mind, Michigan-Washington last week. The public was all over Michigan because of the brand name.
Yeah.
The professionals were all over Washington. Whoa, why is the unranked team favored? They knew, right? So similar. I think Iowa State, this is a different scenario, right? I think Iowa State is a better opponent than the Michigan probably was in that spot for Washington last week. But you have a night game here, and I thought it was interesting when I was watching the press conference of West Virginia head coach Neil Brown talking about, we have a top 11 team coming in here. Our crowd's going to be on fire. Cool spot for an Iowa State fan to be in, where you're not used to being the hunted, where the other crowd gets up for you. And that will absolutely be the case on Saturday night in Morgantown.
And I think the crowd would have been up regardless of the opponent, just because, as we saw last week with Iowa State, they're doing something special.
It's the coal miner daughter's game, right?
The coal miner's daughter. Is that Gary Allen that sings that? I'm the coal miner's daughter.
Yeah,
no, it's the coal rush game, and I think it's a blackout because everybody's going to look like they just came out of the coal mine.
See,
and they're wearing their blackout uniforms,
ripping off Iowa State's uniforms. It's disgusting. It's
Look at
disgusting.
Those black face masks too.
Yeah, Iowa State invented this. This is Iowa State's thing, to go completely against your school colors and just go black and white. This is our thing, God damn it.
I will say it's the wrong thing to do if you're West Virginia, because a blackout does not work at night. Look how much better, you'll see it, how much better a whiteout works at night compared to a blackout. You're not even going to be able to see the fans in the stands. They're just going to blend into the darkness all around. If anything, you stripe it. Stripe it with what? I guess they're wearing black and gray uniforms or black and white. Stripe it with black and white. Do something like that. You're not going to be able to see anything.
I don't know.
It's just going to be a black hole. But
I love West Virginia is my favorite fan base in the Big 12.
The point is they're going to be fired up.
My point is they're a lot like us.
See, you say that. You say that. They're not.
I'm saying
they're a level above.
I don't know if they're bright enough to do a stripe out, because I've watched Iowa State try and do that shit for 20 years, and it doesn't ever work. Last week was the first time it ever worked. It might be a little sophisticated for the folks down there in Morgantown.
I'm sure you could Google it right now. I know they've done stripe outs before, and it's looked great. West Virginia is everything you claim Iowa State fans are, and then some. Like, you want to talk about a bring your lunch pail to the game kind of crowd.
Yeah.
I was there last year for the Pittsburgh game, and there on cue, Matt gives us the beautiful stripe out that West Virginia has done.
That's incredible.
Told you.
Well done.
In the state of West Virginia on the field.
Well done, brethren, down there in Morgantown.
You try to claim that Iowa State fans are, they're not like Iowa fans. They're not elite. We show up, we root on our team.
It's different.
We don't want
walk around Iowa City and walk around Ames. It's totally different.
We want to be holding a light beer and blah blah blah. This is a legit dirt track crowd. This is a dirt track crowd that West Virginia has. I mean, this is backwoods. you don't want to screw with anybody. They are nasty.
They're like roasting squirrels in the parking lot.
It is a crowd. It's more dirt track, Iowa State fair type crowd.
So how would you describe Iowa State?
Compared to West Virginia, Iowa State's a corporate crowd compared to West Virginia. They are.
Pinkies in the air.
Yep. And real nice, like not getting on the opponent. Like these guys, the stuff that they were yelling at these Pittsburgh players when I was on the field.
Well, yeah, but you saw like the extreme too. That's like
I know, but I'm
hate
just
Pittsburgh.
I don't
I
don't
love these
think
West Virginia fans.
You try to
man.
claim Iowa State fans are like that. They're not.
If it's any indication of how their fans are, didn't Pat McAfee go to West Virginia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt, is that your goddamn baby screaming in the background?
Yeah.
God.
Put a placenta in that thing's mouth. No. My point on West Virginia is been around the Big 12 a long time. It's the fan base I think is most like Iowa State. There are big time. The other one I always say Kansas State because of the ag thing. There was like a
Kansas State was the first one that came to mind for me.
Yeah.
Have you been to a game in Morgantown? You have, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been to Morgantown.
Have you walked through the concourse with those fans?
I love it. Like, I love trips to Morgantown.
It's another
my favorite
world.
place to go in the Big 12 by far. So like this is when I was doing women's basketball. Like we would land in Morgantown. I don't think football can do that because the airplane's too big. They've got to land somewhere else.
Yeah, when we went there to cover the game, I think we had to fly into Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and drive down.
if you're flying commercial, you got to go to Pittsburgh and drive down. But like when you land in Morgantown's airport, it's like sky, and then you look around, and it's just like steel mines. It's like you're landing in Moscow, like some suburb of Moscow. It's the craziest shit. And then you drive to your hotel, and you're just looking. It looks like you're driving around Russia is the best way I would describe it. Like, but the people are awesome down there. I love it. It's the best road trip you can make in the Big 12.
Why do some people call this the Riot Bowl? This is the first year I've ever heard that.
It has to do with couch burning. They started.
What does it have to do with Iowa State?
They've burned some couches over the years. Because
Iowa
of
State has?
Visha stuff, going back to Visha. Do you even know what Visha was?
Yeah, I mean,
because Iowa State students like just destroyed the community. They'd rip out stop signs, run around, just set things on fire. It's just it's because of the Visha. A lot of burned couches during Visha over the years.
So they call it the Riot Bowl because Iowa State rioted at Visha.
I think
and
I wasn't
West
aware of that
Virginia
term.
riots after wins.
I don't know. I wasn't aware of that term until
you weren't either.
No, but I think that's where it comes from when you ask.
Okay.
I think it's because Iowa State students.
We know this is the Wally Burnham revenge game, though.
Oh yeah, that whole thing got started there when Geno Smith got. You remember Wally Burnham, Paul Rhodes' old defensive
Did you
coordinator?
just call him Chino Smith?
No, Geno.
Chino Smith.
This was the Black Friday game. Remember when they were trying to fabricate all these rivalries, and when the Big 12, like it was some iteration of the Big 12, and they're like, we're going to put all these rivalry games together on the last week, and Iowa State and West Virginia, because they didn't have a rival, just got drawn together. And Geno Smith, it was at halftime, and they were running to the locker room, and allegedly got in the face and maybe even got physical with old man Burnham. I tweeted this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, only the real ones know, because I was like, I can't root for Geno Smith. I hate the Seahawks as long as that guy's their quarterback. I can't root for him. I'm a Wally Burnham guy here. But yeah, no, good, fun game. Really fun game. And I do think, I watched their game with Oklahoma State yesterday. We have to question a couple of things here. It's totally fair and absolutely responsible for us to break down this game and says, who the hell has Iowa State played, right? Like, totally fair. We have to do it. I would make the point that Oklahoma State is so much dog shit at this point in the year where I don't know how much faith we can put in that with West Virginia, too, after watching that game.
Okay. I'll let you cross that off. Then what?
No,
Kansas isn't very good, but they've played two unbeaten teams like Iowa has.
Yeah, the Penn State game is Penn State's at I think a different planet.
And they should have beaten
with
Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. They blew it, and Pittsburgh's now ranked. They're unbeaten.
Yeah, no. Pittsburgh's a good team. I'm actually going to talk about them in locks coming up here in just a little bit. So I don't know. I'm also going to do the same thing with Colorado. It's like how much faith can we put in them beating Central Florida right now? I mean, clearly Gus Malzahn's team had quit, and we just didn't know it at the time. You know, there were guys with 1 foot up. Two transfers were getting ready to, or two starters were getting ready to transfer at that point. Really interesting time in college football because we've seen it at Iowa this week, which is just weird. Ferentz usually doesn't even have transfers. You have a couple in the middle of the year. Just a lot to analyze here. But from a pure football standpoint, the one thing Iowa State's got to watch for here is the West Virginia rushing attack. With all of Iowa State's linebackers that are out, we don't know exactly who's going to be playing. This is a three-headed rushing attack. 2 good running backs, an elite-level quarterback. This kid, a lot of people think he'll be a 4th, 5th round pick who could stick around in the National Football League and potentially earn his way into some playing time there. Okay, so this is a situation where, and I've got this all week because it's kind of been my analysis. People are going, oh, look what Iowa State's given up. Yeah, well, I mean, you played Houston, right? Totally a one-dimensional team. You played Iowa's offense. Yeah, Arkansas State doesn't count.
And that's why with the Iowa comparison, I could see some people making because, we stopped Caleb Johnson in the second half. We made those adjustments. But West Virginia actually has a quarterback.
Yeah, this kid's way better than Cade McNamara. Like, it's not even close. This kid is this kid's the real deal, this green over at West Virginia. So that is a big concern to me. And it's weird because Neil Brown, when I think Neil Brown, I think Air Raid, I think Mike Leach, I think Texas Tech, I think all this stuff. But he's really evolved with his team and with his roster. And they are the type who can just make it uglier than hell. So Iowa State is, if they're going to win this game, they damn well better get off to a fast start. Enough of the slow starts. It can't happen this week in Morgantown for a couple reasons. One, the crowd, and two, a little bit like playing Iowa in the sense that West Virginia is good enough on the ground where they can bleed some clock, and that's a concern for me with the slow starts in Iowa State, just the way this West Virginia team is built.
I am too worried about Iowa State's defense. I know they've proven, and that when you look at national categories and it'll tell you nothing's wrong. In fact, it'll tell you it's one of Iowa State's best defenses. But I just, at some point, these injuries that they've sustained, I think, will show themselves. And this seems like a game where West Virginia is going to attack those weaknesses. And you're not just going to be able to make that change like you did against Iowa because you start bringing guys up and Garrett Green's going to pop you over the top. This is Iowa State's, I don't want to say toughest test because going into Kinnick Stadium for the Cyhawk game, that was a really tough test. But it is every bit a test as that. And we saw what Iowa State needed to do to be able to win that game.
And the hole that Iowa State dug itself in.
Right.
In that
you needed big plays. You needed a 50-plus yard field goal. And Juice says, I've been saying this for weeks, and I've constantly been wrong. Saying what? I said last week that I haven't picked Iowa State to lose a game this season. I have not. I said last week I think they're going to struggle early with Baylor. I think that you're going to look up, and all of a sudden it's a game. That's exactly what happened. I didn't think Iowa State was going to put that thing out of reach by the fourth quarter.
Juice is on one because he's trying to say that Baylor has a better quarterback than this Green, and that's just not true. It's not true. So,
and I wasn't the one that said Iowa State might have trouble with Arkansas State. I didn't say that. I said my analyst at HQ said that if they go with the backup quarterback, he thinks they're going to cover the game, and it just could be interesting.
Blatant disrespect, Hawkeye hassle, just trying to shove it in the face of everyone here. Everything you're saying, I completely agree with. This is a really hard place to play too, right? Like of all the games, I was going through these games. Of all the games on Saturday, this will be a top 5 atmosphere to go into, right?
Of all the games Saturday, wow.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. So you got Oregon.
This is a tough weekend to crack that top 5.
Well, I'm saying you got Oregon, Red River, but that's 50-50.
Yeah.
You know, as far as fan bases that really fucking care,
yeah,
and are going to be on fire, these West Virginians been drinking all day. They're just drinking moonshine in the parking lot at like 6 a.m., just frying squirrels.
If it's not top 5, it's going to be damn close.
Yeah.
This is going to be – this will rival the atmosphere at Kinnick Stadium.
LSU, Ole Miss, be right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I put this atmosphere over whatever they do in Boulder, you know.
So where are you at? We W&L before the season. We've been 100% correct on everything, Iowa and Iowa State so far.
God, we have been. Look at us.
We both had Iowa State losing this game.
I'm gonna pick them to win.
No, you're flip-flopping.
Here's the deal. I think they're a better team. When I watch the two teams, I think Iowa State, I like their skill players better. And the thing that I like about Iowa State's offense, I am worried about the defense. Okay? Like, that is a big concern with me. West Virginia has a terrible pass defense, like bottom 30 in college football.
Got to take advantage of that.
Iowa State's offensive line feels like it is getting ready to peak. Getting this Jalen Travis in at left tackle a couple games ago. They finally have a running game.
Yeah. 3 straight games over 200 yards on the ground.
And I think that is what is going to push them over the top, being able to run the football, and I think it opens it up against this bad secondary for West Virginia that doesn't get a ton of pressure on the quarterback. I'm going to pick Iowa State to win on that behalf. I think that, you know, the Big 12 this year, and this isn't a perfect example because I think that this is a little bit of I think this is different than a 11 a.m. 2:30 kick in Morgantown. Like, I think things will be ratcheted up here. Yeah. I do believe that. But there's been a lot of road teams winning in this league this year across the board. Doesn't feel as big to me. I know the smart play is to take West Virginia. All of the bookies will do it.
What's the line sitting at now? Is it still right on the 3?
Yeah, it's at 3.5, actually. The one I saw went up to 3.5. So there is money on Iowa State, believe it or not. I just think that they're better. I think Iowa State's a better team than West Virginia is, and I'm going to roll with it. I'm gonna say the magical season keeps rolling.
Well,
and
I think Iowa State's better too, but
yeah, close win. Let's go 30-27. How about that?
High-scoring game.
Yeah, I think it'll be and that's what I want. Like, right, I don't necessarily think I want this game to be in the teens or in the low 20s. Give me offense versus offense. I'll take a track meet here because I trust that Iowa State's offense can do that against this West Virginia defense. And the one thing is, it's like Haycock's pretty good if you can be one-dimensional. Their game last week against Oklahoma State, they ran for almost 400 yards in that football game. I don't care who's out there for Iowa State. Their defensive line's good enough. I don't think they'll be able to do that against this team. And if they do what they did with Iowa, right, where all of a sudden you're shutting down Caleb Johnson and you make them throw, I'll put Iowa State's secondary up against any quarterback in the Big 12, including Green. And that's what I'm hoping for here is that you stack the box and you go one-on-one on the outside and see if they can beat you. But I don't feel great about this pick. I think it's close to a 50-50 game as you can get, but I'm going to roll with Iowa State. What about you? I feel you're going the other way. I can tell. It's okay.
I do think Iowa State's the better team. I don't know that Iowa State is the best team in the Big 12. I think we've heard a lot of that over the last week or two.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Iowa State's the team to beat. They're the best team. They have the shortest odds. I think there's a long way to go here, and there's so many questions still out there. I mean, you know, West Virginia's turned things around. They're unbeaten in conference play. They've got a great home field advantage. You've got the Utah Rising could return, and all of a sudden I think they become the best team in the league.
With Rising, they are the number one team in the Big 12.
And that could happen. He could come back. You've got Kansas State that, look, they're far from done. They took the one lump, but they have shown that they can beat anybody, and they still might end up being the best team in this league. And then what are Colorado and BYU? Those teams have been great in conference play so far, and BYU has the best overall resume of anybody in this conference. So I'm not ready to say that Iowa State's the best team in this conference and that they should go in the Riot Bowl, in the coal miner's daughter game, and go in there and take out West Virginia in this atmosphere. I thought this would be a really tough spot before the season, and I think it's an even tougher spot now. I think everything is setting up for this to be the end of the perfect season for Iowa State. Not going to take them out of the race for the Big 12, the college football playoff, but I think West Virginia is going to be able to move the ball on the ground, and if you try to shut that down, then Garrett Green's going to hurt you with his arm and his legs. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, too. I'm right there with you. But I've got West Virginia ending this perfect season 30-27.
Do you see what I'm saying with the – so you picked 30-27, too. Mm-hmm. We just went opposite sides. Where I feel like if this is a super low-scoring game, that means West Virginia dictated it, which is why I hope it's higher. Because I think that's what they want. Like if I'm Neil Brown, that's what I want. I'm going to try and do exactly what I did to Oklahoma State. Iowa State's, they're not great up front on defense on the line, but they're pretty good. It's those linebackers that are a concern to everybody. Get to one last point on this game, but I want to thank our friends at Freedom Tire. Hit it, Hassel.
Freedom Tire.
We got a huge tire sale going on right now through the end of October at Freedom Tire. Let me tell you about it. You can purchase a set of 4 Goodyears and get an in-store instant rebate of $100, plus get up to $225 in additional mail-in rebates. That's a hell of a deal. That is a hell of a deal. You can also get 4 Cooper tires and get an instant $60 rebate. Or you can purchase 4 Bridgestone tires and get up to $190 mail-in rebate. FreedomTire.com. They have locations in Altoona, Ames, Des Moines, West Des Moines, and Urbandale. FreedomTire.com. Rock. So the last time Iowa State went 6-0, 1938. And you guys have pulled some newspaper clippings from this game?
Yes. Courtesy of Wide Right Natty Light. They did an article, I don't know, I think it was during COVID. They must have been really bored during COVID because it was 2020, and they went through and they put together all these clippings from each season. And this is how long ago it was. The last time Iowa State started 6-0, they...
Does it say Hazzle Dazzle?
Wait, no, Razzle Dazzle play helps Iowa State defense defeat Luther. So this is what they use. And upper right, if you're watching this on YouTube or where have you, this is what they used to do for college football coverage in newspapers. They would have a photographer sit up, like where you would find the TV cameras now, and just like take a bunch of pictures of each play, and then go reel by reel and try to explain to you what's happening. It was like Repke heads off tackle, and then they circle a guy, and then they point to the guy that has the ball.
Forward pass.
And then number 2 starts lateral pass. My grandpa, I remember he had newspaper clippings of stuff like this.
Wasn't Kirk Ferentz the offensive coordinator in this game?
And it's just this was a year before they mandated that players wear helmets. And they didn't even call them helmets. They called them head protectors. And the funniest thing about this year, Matt, if you can go back out to one of the other, because these are 4 different clippings. There was this article that Iowa State is considered for Philadelphia event. So they were being considered for a big bowl game because they finished the year, I think, with only one loss. And it read, I believe this is from the Muscatine Journal, or as the folks in Muscatine call it, the Muscatine Urinal. Iowa State was being considered, I'll just read you the article. Iowa State College at Ames is among the gridiron teams under consideration for a New Year's Eve football classic.
Do it in the old broadcaster voice.
Did Don Hassel write this article?
So they're being considered for this football classic. It says J.L. Curley, retired naval officer, who is promoting the game, said today. Curley said he had about a dozen outstanding teams under consideration for the contest, which he hopes is going to rival the Rose Bowl. He has leased Municipal Stadium, which seats over 100,000, and Iowa State was one of the teams being considered. Did they go to that bowl game? No. Why? Because it never even happened. This is how crazy the college football world was back then. This guy thought he was going to put on a bowl game for 100,000 fans in Philadelphia that was going to rival the Rose Bowl, and the game just folded before it even happened. Never happened. Iowa State didn't even play in a bowl game. Didn't even play.
Seems about right.
They had a big game against Oklahoma end of the year. They sold out the stadium. They had like 25,000. Do you have that full the clip from the Oklahoma game? I think it's the one on the far left there, Van Winks. Because in the article, they kind of explain the atmosphere. And this is so Iowa State. Because
the most Iowa State thing ever is your best season ever, where you win a New Year's Six game and there's
no. This is the best Iowa State thing ever. Look at the headline of this article. This is after they lose their one and only game. The headline says, all perfect but final score at Ames Saturday. And the whole article is about how great the atmosphere was. And it basically, it hardly even mentions that Oklahoma beat Iowa State and won. I think at the time it was called the Big Six Conference. But scroll down. There was a note about that, something that you would never see in a. Let's go. Okay, the weatherman. Okay, the weatherman joined in the festivities. It was a perfect day for football, and the gals dressed in fur coats looked a bit out of place. A light top coat for the men, a suit or jacket for the girls was simple. Oklahoma's band, attired in smart red and white outfits, joined the Cyclones musicians in maneuvers on the field before the game and between halves. An Indian who jumped around as nimbly as old Chief Blackhawk did in his best days had the folks in the stand doing the flock of war whoops.
Chief who?
They had an Indian out there dancing around.
Sounds offensive.
Bottom line
like
is
edgy sports writing here.
Yeah,
in this guy's like Bill Simmons.
This is the guy Randy Peterson grew up probably reading. This guy. I think we pulled these from the Waterloo Courier, the Muscatine Journal, and the Des Moines Register.
Sounds a little better than playing Mr. Brightside to me.
Yeah, Van Winks is calling for a live Indian to be dancing
Chief
around on the field.
Blackhawk out there. Man.
Bottom line is, it's been a long time, fellas. Thank you to Wide Right Natty Light for
those guys are great
doing that in-depth research. Good stuff.
Yeah, hard-hitting stuff that we need. Holy mackerel. That's good stuff. All right, we'll get to Iowa. Do want to give a shout-out to another one of our great sponsors, the Full Court Press family of restaurants. It is Oktoberfest. They are also a sponsor of Instant Iowa, which you can hear Hassel and Andrew Downs after the Iowa 11 a.m. kick for you guys, right?
Yes.
Saturday? Okay, so we'll have you guys will be done and drunk by the time Iowa State even kicks off.
Well, as it's called in the industry, though, this is big noon, baby. This is the big noon
No, it's
kickoff.
not. They're not even sending the real play-by-play people to Iowa City. This isn't big noon.
They're going to Provo. Yeah, it's not Gus
like,
Johnson.
We'll put this game on, but
I was texting.
We're going to go somewhere else.
When I saw that this game was at noon and part of the big noon, I was texting Brady Quinn, who's part of the the big noon pregame show. I said, you really have to go to Iowa City next week for 3-2 versus 4-2 game? He said, no, we'll be in Provo for BYU versus Arizona. So they didn't have the number one pick in the Big Ten or the Big 12.
Because that's clearly Oregon. Ohio
yeah.
State.
Or CBS has a good one too, Penn State at USC. It's lost a little bit of its luster because USC's lost a couple games, but that's going to be a tough spot for Penn State. That's the 3:30 Eastern time.
Support our Full Court Press family of restaurants. I scheduled a lunch meeting next week at the Iowa Tap Room. That is my go-to spot. Love going there. And if you're going to go out and really, if you're just a diehard college football fan, you could make it an all-day affair. It's going to be beautiful here in Iowa this weekend.
Is it good weather?
Yeah, really nice weather.
Okay,
it's going to be warm. It's like upper 80s. So go out and support our Full Court Press family of restaurants. Get yourself a Fong's Pizza.
But before we jump into Iowa, there was a question that Rider Boy posed. And I think it pertains to Iowa State, obviously, with the playoff talk. Would you rather have the number 4 seed and a bye or a playoff game at Jack Trice as a number 5 or 6 seed?
I would rather have the playoff game at Jack Trice.
I would too.
That's a once-in-a-lifetime, great for the economy.
And presumably you're going to play a team that you would have a better shot of beating. Because if you're let me think here. If you're the 4 seed, you're likely getting the best of the 5 through 12. Now,
I think the 5 seed, you're going to play like Boise, right?
If you're the 5 seed, likely.
Yeah,
but
whoever the group of 5 school is.
No. So here it is. There are some misnomers out there about the playoff. And here's one of them. Iowa State's not guaranteed a top 4 spot and a bye with a conference championship. In fact, there are a lot of playoff projections out there. Bud Elliott has one of them from CBS Sports. He's on the Cover 3 podcast. He actually projects Iowa State right now as the 11 seed, as the winner of the Big 12. And here's how that happens. Let's just say Boise wins out and they end up in the top 10. Iowa State loses a game or two in the regular season, wins the Big 12 championship. If they're ranked behind Boise State, Boise would get that bye. And Iowa State would end up falling in line behind there, either potentially getting a home playoff game or, in the case of Bud Elliott's CFP projection, having to go on the road. So that's the risk you take. You might not get top 4, and you might get to play in those on-campus games, but you might have to go on the road for that. And because of the way the country feels about the Big 12 compared to all other conferences, maybe ACC aside, but ACC has the big teams at the top. They've got Miami. They've got Clemson. I think there is a chance that Iowa State does not get that bye. And I don't think we've really entertained that possibility because I think most people, because of the early playoff scenarios that came out before we locked in what we have, it was like, well, there's going to be guaranteed spots for the power conferences, and then the group of 5 slides in behind. That's not the case. If Boise's ranked ahead of Iowa State, they're going to get that spot.
How about we do this? Let's get through Saturday, and then we'll decipher all this. How about that? Does that sound good?
Fair enough.
Iowa, Washington.
Washington. You know people that say Washington?
All of Southwest Iowa.
Chuck Grassley.
My father-in-law
actually
says Warsh.
Family members. My mom's sister lived born and raised in South Carolina, but she lived in Seattle for most of her adult life, and they're big Washington fans. So, this classic Big Ten battle is a big deal to them.
You say that all the time, making fun of the Big Ten. Get out of here with that crap. This is kind of a classic battle. I mean, one of the first games I remember is Iowa-Washington in the Rose Bowl.
There's real history with these two teams. It's been better on the Washington side over the years. This is kind of cool that Washington's going to Kinnick Stadium, and
it's a good game. It's a really good game
for Iowa. I got a lot of reasons why I like this game for Iowa. Did you know Washington's kicker is garbage?
He can be
9 of 15 on the year, and watched a little bit of that Michigan game from last week. Does Michigan have a worse passing game than Iowa?
Yes.
I think so, too.
They do.
Yeah, I think so, too. This is a 9 a.m. kick for Washington.
Jed Fish has said he is preparing for that by holding 9 a.m. practices, at least 2 9 a.m. practices local time for Fish.
That's smart. I don't know. I like the way this sets up for Iowa, and there's other reasons. I'll let you. You're the expert here. What do you think of the game?
I'm the expert. I think it's just a really good game, a fascinating game. Really, like how does Iowa bounce back against Ohio after the Ohio State loss? This is a game they have to have. They have to have it. It's a lot like that Minnesota game. You could not lose that game. You lose this game, you lose the fan base. The season is lost. You've got to come home and get right here. And you look on paper and paper, and it says Washington has one of the top pass defenses in the nation. I'm not buying that. I'm looking at who they've played, and they've played Michigan, they've played Rutgers, they've played Northwestern. A lot of the stats, especially this time of year, are the bad non-conference teams you've played are baked into that.
No doubt.
And they just haven't played a team that's been able to throw the ball down the field. Now, they did play Washington State, and they're better at doing that, and they lost. They lost that game to Washington State. They've been beaten twice already. I think that the win against Michigan last week for Washington, that was more about Michigan not being good than Washington being like a potential top 25 team. I don't think Washington's that good. They lost everybody off that team last year. Everybody. This isn't like, they've got some leftovers from the college football playoff team. They don't. It's a total rebuild. And they do have a couple of nice wins in Big Ten play, but I think Iowa should win this game. You're at home. You got a team traveling 2 time zones. What's the record right now? Big Ten teams are 1-7 when traveling multiple time zones.
And that's something that we're kind of learning as we go. But it's difficult for a professional to do. I think it's way harder for a 20-year-old to be able. I get. Yeah, we're gonna practice at 9 a couple times, but that's different than the actual game. I love Iowa here.
What's the line sitting at right now? A lot of people were surprised to see Iowa was favored.
I got it at 2.5 last night. I don't know what it's at now. 3
Looks
now.
like you can find it at 3. The total's pretty high, 42.5. Well, geez, when's the last time we saw an Iowa total?
We hit the Iowa under last.
Other than the Ohio State. Yeah, you were right on that. It got hairy when Iowa started turning the ball over and Ohio State was running it up.
I was sitting pretty at halftime, but yeah, if this is a low-scoring game like we think it will be, I love the fact that their special teams is garbage. Iowa's special teams has really leveled out and become pretty good.
Decent. Up and down with Dakin.
Not what it has been, but,
And you had the missed field goal for the first time last week, but it's a 50-plus yard field goal. I'm not really going to knock him too much for that.
I love Fish, the coach at Washington. I think he'll turn that into a really nice Big Ten program, but he needs some time.
Fish has been to Kinnick Stadium a couple of times. He talked about it in his press conference this week. He was the offensive coordinator at Minnesota in 2009 when Iowa was coming off that loss to Ohio State in the Horseshoe. James Vandenberg was the quarterback when Stanzi went down. This was the last game of the regular season before they won the Orange Bowl, and they shut out Minnesota 12-0. Then
forget that fireworks.
I was at that game. That was a miserable game. Then he was the quarterbacks coach at Michigan. When Michigan came in 2016, they were top 3, and Iowa won 14-13. So, like, he's been on the wrong end. And so he's like, I know we're in for a great atmosphere this weekend. And I was reading an article from one of the local Seattle papers, and they were interviewing one of the players, and they were asking him about going to Iowa, and he said basically he had no idea that Iowa had like a good home field advantage or a good stadium or anything like that until he was playing against Iowa in the college football video game, and they had the stadium pulse cranked up so high he was having a tough time like calling his offensive plays because they ranked Kinnick Stadium in the top, 10 or 15 in the country. I thought that was interesting. I don't think we're going to see Brennan Sullivan outside of his regular package.
I would agree. Certainly didn't seem like that listening to Kirk Ferentz.
I think it would take McNamara to have several turnovers again and Iowa losing by double digits for there to actually be a switch made in this game. I don't think Cade's going to have to do a ton in this game. I really don't. And I don't think that pass defense is that good. Not what their numbers show.
If they can mimic their first half against Ohio State, like I thought Cade played really well.
I think they'd be fine.
He would have a nice statistical game against this Washington team if he can mimic that.
Did you hear when Cade was asked about his play this week? I think it was a Blake Hornstein tweet.
Yeah, I did see this.
Matt has the answer from Cade.
Came to Iowa, you wanted to kind of help change the narrative, the national narrative around the offense. I was just curious, do you feel like you're playing at the level you hoped you would play at when you transferred here?
I think right now I'm playing pretty solid. I think obviously there's some things I want to clean up, but right now I think really these last couple of weeks I've really found a good rhythm, and I'm getting through my progressions really fast, and maybe a couple accuracy things, but I mean that's going to happen. But right now I think right now I'm just getting better every single week, and that's the best thing I can do to help the team win.
Reaction?
I mean, pretty coach speaky. I don't know what.
That's not what I want to hear from him. Bottom line, it's not what I want to hear from him.
It's like
I want to hear.
Yeah, like no,
I'm not.
To be
I'm
better.
not playing good enough.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just.
I'm making some strides.
He clearly
I feel
is
like I'm
coach
close.
speaking there.
I'm not there. Are you really? You're playing pretty solid. You're improving every week. Let's go look at some stats here. Live stats around the country. Iowa's passing offense. 127th in yards per game. 125th in yards per attempt. 118th in passing touchdowns. And one of those is a Brennan Sullivan shovel pass. Cade has 3 touchdown passes. That ranks bottom 5 in college football. 116th in rating. It's not good enough. It's not even close to being good enough. And I'm tired of hearing that, I'm improving every week. Kirk Ferentz says, yep, he's improving every week. Thought he played pretty well. Come on. Compared to what?
Well,
he had a good first half against Ohio State. He missed the one big play he needed to make, which was on the opening drive to Weegan. Yeah, it wasn't bad. But that was half of the game, and then in the third quarter, you turn the ball over 3 times. And that's the one thing you can't do as an Iowa quarterback. You cannot turn the ball over. You can't be Deacon Hill. Because if you're going to play this way, the way that Kirk Ferentz wants to play and wants to win, you cannot turn the football over. Now, that was Ohio State. I get it. But they've also played some shitty teams. He has not gotten the job done or even come close to getting the job done against the teams they have played with a pulse. Like the Minnesota win, he didn't have to do anything. That was all Caleb Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
This is the moment of truth for Cade McNamara. If he's going to be anything but a failure at Iowa, And I put it that way because he is going to be looked at in a different way than any other quarterback in Iowa's history, because he's the first one in this NIL era. He's the first one that they paid, and they paid a lot of money. And there was a lot of hype. This guy, he was the quarterback at Michigan when they won the Big Ten championship, and he took them to the playoff. And what has he done? He hasn't thrown a single touchdown pass against a power team since he's come to Iowa.
And he got Kirk Ferentz suspended.
That too. I don't really care about that. This is it. Like, you better come to play in this game and for the rest of the season and get this team moving.
Well, the problem with the improving stuff too is that he's a senior, right? It's not like it was Labus last year. You put him in, you're like, oh, who's this kid? You know, like it's like you should probably kind of.
He's
be
like
there
a
by
super
now.
senior.
Yeah.
This is it. Like, he can still do this. Show us how much you've been improving. Let's hit some balls more than 10 yards down the field. He's completed 2 passes this season down the field. 2. And you really have to go back to that opening game to see anything from him. And that was against an FCS team. We were going nuts because, he found 2 wide receivers for touchdowns. I mean, what?
You guys were bebopping and scatting all over that Instant Iowa show. Man.
It should be Brendan Sullivan right now. It should. I don't know that you could find any Iowa fan that can argue against that. Even though we don't know 100% what he's going to provide.
What Petrus has been up to?
Well,
Petrus
I know he threw 3 touchdowns last week.
He's one of the
blowout
best
loss.
It was like look up Petrus's stat line last week real quick. I'm glad I got that autographed jersey. This thing might be worth.
But isn't that what we kind of expected at Utah State, that he was going to go there and kind of thrive a little bit in his last year? Didn't we say that? I said it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was like really good last week.
Yeah, but they got their ass kicked by Boise State.
For 372 yards.
I understand. What was the final score? 62-30.
It's not his fault the defense can't stop Boise. 372 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and you still want to shit all over the guy?
I'm not.
Give him his credit. He leaves Iowa and he turns into a better quarterback.
Joey Labus has been pretty good at Central Michigan. I mean, he's had his ups and downs, but
What's Deacon up to?
He's had some games. Deacon, Utah Tech, I don't know. I haven't checked in on him in a few weeks.
Something tells me it's not as bright, but I don't know.
I wonder what Tim Lester thinks.
I would love. That's what I was thinking when we were talking about Ferentz. It's like I would love to hear it, because
I got
feel
the
like
sense
Lester
going into the season that he really was going to have a say, and he has done some really good things that we've seen. Like
all that motion,
what he's done with the ground game has been great. But at the same time, what the hell was Caleb Johnson doing, sitting on the bench for so many snaps in that first half when that was a game? When Iowa was in it and they needed a big play. I want to see more of Caleb Johnson in this game. I don't want him. He's the bell cow. Use him like Ashton Genty for Boise State, who, have you seen? Genty is now the Heisman favorite.
He ain't winning the Heisman.
He's the Heisman favorite. He's like plus 220.
Not winning the Heisman.
He might because, excuse me. Sorry.
Heart attack.
He might, because he's going to put up like 250 yards and 4 touchdowns every game because they don't play anybody. Boise State doesn't play anybody.
I'm just telling you that these voters aren't watching Boise enough is the problem. Like
they must be, because he's the Heisman. Vegas isn't going to make that.
Yeah, they're wrong.
Unless they have some real information.
I promise you that guy will not win the Heisman Trophy.
What is that?
The fuck was that?
That sounds like a video game. You playing Mario over there?
Oh, it means we're out of time.
We're out of time?
Yeah, 9:30.
You cutting us off? What is going on?
I guess we got to wrap up.
Oh, wait a minute. We have a surprise for everyone.
Oh, God. Are you bringing in another fucking XFT wrestler interview again?
No.
Here comes Bones McGee.
overtime.
Winning at Wild Rose is frighteningly fun in October. Careful, though. You're not the only one trying to get your hands on those cursed cases of cash. Play now for a shot at your share of $17,500 in cash. Playing and winning has never been more fun. And sometimes a little spooky. See Club Wild for details. Only at Wild Rose Casino and Hotel.
You'd rather be here.
Two Guys is giving you an extra 30 minutes of content on Thursdays going forward, thanks to our friends at Wild Rose Casino. How cool is that?
Awesome.
Because we don't have enough time for this show on Thursdays.
We
haven't
really
even
have
gotten
been
to our
going
game day segment. We haven't gotten anything.
On average, I feel like Thursdays during the college football season, we're going 115, 120.
We get it. Extra time, overtime, and all you got to do is watch that ad right there from our friends at the Wild Rose Casino.
You know who you wouldn't get this from? You wouldn't get this from Murph and Andy. There's no way in hell they're going to go much over an hour.
They got their, stuff to do. They're very important people.
They've got their big newsroom meeting that they've got to get to. So Andy cuts his more segment short. So they have to give me a break. I've got work to get to, too. I'm going into work right after this. And by the way, I'm solo today. I'm all by myself because somebody couldn't get in to co-anchor with me because of the hurricane.
Ooh, the hurricane. I can't get into work.
I thought Amanda was at the Red River shootout.
Well,
isn't she?
Amanda is, well, she went there during the week, but she's doing some other game this week. What the hell is she doing? Oh, UNLV is playing somebody. I think it might be Utah State.
She has Petrus.
She's on Petrus watch.
Yes.
I didn't put that together.
Good for her.
Randy Peterson says Wild Rose. That's where he watched and analyzed the Cyhawk game with old
Eddie,
Butty
Eddie
Boy.
I saw that Eddie's going to be back at Wild Rose for the Michigan State game doing a.
Oh, really?
doing a
Okay.
deal. You see that?
There we go. Very cool. Okay, so yeah, this is for real. We are going to be longer shows on Thursdays now, thanks to our friends at Wild Rose Casinos. You can check them out at wildroseresorts.com.
Kyle says, great, 30 more minutes of Iowa backup quarterback talk.
We still have our weekend preview. We still
Jamon
have
says,
for the week.
Great, 30 minutes to talk about Cade throwing with no laces.
We've really left an impact on our audience, you know? Hey, guys, get up. It's game day. Time to go.
Get up. It's game day. Chris Williams and Chris Hassel take a look at this week's best games. Powered by Game Day Men's Health.
Game Day Men's Health bringing us Get Up. It's game day. Hassel, your 3 favorite games of the weekend. Go.
Oh, this is on paper. When this thing came out, the schedule of games, it was October 12th that everybody was looking at for the best slate of games, and it's great too because we've got 2 great ones locally with Iowa State, West Virginia, and Iowa, Washington. But I'm going to go Penn State at USC. This is going to be overlooked because of the Ohio State Oregon game, but I do really like this. Actually, I'm going to let you take that game, Williams. I'm going to let you take that game because I'm going to go to Friday. Okay. Can I go Friday? Utah, Arizona State. Friday night, late night. Utah.
After dark.
I don't know, 6-point favorite or so. Interesting spot here. Like, is Arizona State gonna do it again? Like they've surprised a lot of people. They've already, I think, come close to hitting their win total for the season. These teams have identical records. And they were on opposite ends of the preseason poll. Utah was picked first. Arizona State was picked last. And here they are, nighttime. We don't know what's going on with Cam Rising. If Arizona State pulls this out, Utah is donezo. Done. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. Best game in the Big 12.
Love the Friday night game.
Is Kansas State at Colorado. I'm so intrigued. I'm always interested in watching Colorado. They're fun to watch. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, who I've seen him in mock drafts be the number 1 overall pick next year on some of our CBS drafts. And NFL teams might potentially play him on offense and defense. And then Kansas State. You know, they had the big lump, but they've shown that they can be the team that we expected them to be going into the season. The winner of this game is going to have if Colorado wins this game, their odds to win the conference are going to skyrocket. If Kansas State loses this game, you might be able to put a fork in them. 2 losses, their backs are against the wall. They would have to win out to have any chance. That's what, a 4-point spread or so?
Yeah, 4-point spread. Stay tuned.
And then the big one. You can't not go and be intrigued by Ohio State at Oregon.
Ooh. This is the eggplant emoji game of the week.
Is that a new thing? We should get that sponsored.
Yeah.
By
Got like
Fareway.
Fairway's produce department. The eggplant emoji game of the week.
Is Ohio State as good as everyone thinks they are? Is Oregon ready to already be the team in the Big Ten?
Oregon's, how much have you watched them?
This season?
Yeah.
Not a heck of a lot.
Well, they're weird. Like,
they got off to a really slow start.
Yeah, when I watched them early, but I didn't know how good Boise was when I watched that game. Right? They struggled in week 1, and then the Boise game happened, and we were just like, oh, they're limping past.
I don't think
this
we knew
Boise.
what we had in that game. We didn't know Boise was as good as they are. At least I didn't. I didn't know Genty was going to be as good as he was. I feel like I should have paid more attention to that game. But we also don't know what Ohio State. They've played Michigan State and Iowa.
Can I answer something real quick? Jonathan wants to know why I think Genty won't win the Heisman. I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with his stats. It has nothing to do with what he's doing. It has everything to do with the Heisman voters. That's it. Like,
but if he goes out and he sets the record for rushing yards in the season.
And he'll be in New York, but they're going to give it to the Georgia quarterback or to Milton or, like, I promise you. Or Travis Hunter because he has all the media stuff around him because of Dion. Like,
if Dylan Gabriel goes out and throws 5 touchdowns against Ohio State, he's going to skyrocket. He was
a
the preseason
favorite.
favorite. Gabriel
was
the preseason favorite.
Not vote for a quarterback if I can, because I hate it, but it's just what it is. That's why. It has nothing to do with the Boise running back. I think he's probably deserving, no doubt.
More on Ohio State and Oregon in just a little bit with my locks, but I do want to. I'm gonna give you the Penn State USC game because it is going to be overshadowed this week.
Yeah. Well, I didn't pick Penn State USC for mine, but did I? Wait a second.
It says you did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. Never mind. Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Well, that doesn't.
I was
give
thinking
me...
for locks. You said locks, and I in my head. This is interesting because everybody's down on SC now, right? And probably rightfully so. They lost to what we don't think is that good of a Michigan team. Weird. Minnesota game was weird. This is still the time zone thing, though. And
this is 3 time zones.
Yeah. And, we all like Penn State. There's no reason not to. But this isn't like, even though SC has these losses, they still have talent, right? Like, this isn't, you're not going to play UCLA across 3 time zones here. This is upset alert for me. Big time upset alert for the number 4 team in the country.
It's a huge game for both of these head coaches. It's a 4-point spread right now, Penn State -4. You've got James Franklin, who's trying to prove that, yes, they are the top dog outside of Ohio State in the Big Ten and at times Michigan, because that's another team that they haven't been able to beat. Michigan's down this year. But Penn State has to make the playoff this year. And so this is a game you might have to get. And then on the Lincoln Riley side, that son of a bitch is 5-7 in his last 12 games.
Shocking to me. After watching them play LSU, shocking to me how they've done this year.
They lost to Michigan. That looks like a bad loss now. And Minnesota?
Worse passing game than Iowa.
What the hell? I don't know. I don't know about SC.
At what point? Nah, I'm not going to say it. At what point does he get heat?
I think if he loses this game, there are going to be some people. He's not going to be on a hot seat or anything, but he's going to get a lot of heat nationally. I'm not saying he's going to get
fired, but when does he get heat?
If they don't win this game,
they have more NIL money than God. You're recruiting to Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be at some point. Arizona at BYU.
Yeah, I love this.
Still not buying BYU. Still not buying them. great test right here. This is a great game.
Who is Arizona? What are they?
I have no idea, but they were my favorite win total under on the year. If you remember me saying that in like June when these things came out. So, yeah, but this is a good matchup for Arizona. Arizona tends to struggle they're struggling against Big 12 teams, like real Big 12 teams, in a different type of style, just a little bit. And this isn't that. BYU is not that. Upset alert for BYU, the number 14 team in the country. Big upset alert here.
That would be good for Iowa State if Arizona can pull off that victory.
And I'm not that interested in this game, but I felt like I had to put it on there based on what else was out there. Texas, Oklahoma.
What are you talking about? This is the greatest slate of all time, and you're picking games you don't even care about?
I can't. Listen, here's what I want. I want to see Oklahoma have pain. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
I don't like Oklahoma. Here's the thing about me and Texas. It's like, do I like them? No. But at least, like, they have a spot at the big boy table because they bring the assets with it, right? They're paying the way for Oklahoma to come with them. Oklahoma fans have gotten really arrogant over the years. They're just tied to Texas. You are Arkansas in this new league, and they better get used to it. And I hope Texas kicks the shit out of them on Saturday.
It's a 2-touchdown spread, isn't it?
14
Oklahoma is the annoying guy who talks about how rich he is, right? If you're rich, you generally don't talk about how much money you have, is in my experience. The real rich dudes that I know are wearing Wranglers that are 15 years old, okay? The Texas, they're a rich fucking dude. Let's be honest, right? Like, but sometimes, like, I have rich friends, and I just can't hang with them. I'm not going to Vegas with you guys because you're going to stay in a room that, you know, if I do that, I'm going to be paying it off on a credit card for the next 2 months, and I'm not interested, so I'm just not even going to go with you. Oklahoma is the douche that tries to hang with the rich guys even though he's not a rich guy. He just bums around, and he's got his hand out, and he's wanting stuff all the time, wanting free stuff. I don't like that guy. I hope Oklahoma gets its ass kicked.
You know who doesn't like you is my buddy John, the big Arkansas fan. He thinks you're always shitting on Arkansas. You're always, you're going to be Arkansas. Arkansas just beat Tennessee last week.
Good for Arkansas.
Is Quinn Ewers back?
He's supposed
Texas?
to be. Yeah, he is expected to be the quarterback.
Wait a second. Is John that guy who put Oreos all over his pubic region?
That's not him. I don't think that the Oreo guy listens to the show. Because he would know, and I think he would contact me.
So he's like sitting around. He's just paranoid every day that somehow that's going to get brought up in adulthood. Oh, my God. I can't believe I did that.
And for new listeners to the show, he's the one that was trying to show off his new pubic hair as a fourth grader and came out with his pants down and crumbled up Oreos glued to his
he's super
ball sack.
glued to his crotch. Oh, could you imagine this scrotum pain?
I love how every time I bring up a friend, you ask me if it's the Oreo guy.
Locks of the week. Centurion Stone Cold locks of the week. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Do you know that last week I went 3-0?
Nice. I'm struggling. You're kicking my ass this year. What are the updated standings? Oh, I'm 6-9-1. That's actually better than I thought.
I'm 8-6-1. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good.
I really, really like one of my plays this week. Centurion Stone of Iowa, by the way. Give them a shout out. They are my buddies. Justin Luch, little Joe Farron, little B. Laz, little Miller Time. All my buddies.
Centurion Stone. Get me some of that stone.
Also have a showroom in Omaha. I know we have a lot of Nebraska viewers and listeners. Go check them out. Stone fireplaces, stone patios, all that good stuff.
Remember when Matt made the first Locks of the Week graphic that we were going to show, and you looked the exact same in your caricature. If you're listening to this, there's a graphic up on the screen, and it has like our caricature heads on it with our picks. And Matt, the first one he made, I was black. My skin was black. Like you could hardly even see it because it's up against a black background. And I said, Van Winks, we cannot use this. He said, "What are you talking about? It's the same thing we use on the banner on the bottom of the show." No, it's not. I'm black. You can't do that to me. Finally, I was able to
filter on your face or something.
You gave me a filter?
Matt was like he was
all you
super
could see was
defensive
my
of it.
teeth.
It was
He's
a
like, no,
spray
you're
tan
tan.
gone wrong.
You live in Florida.
No, it was. We were close to getting canceled.
Speaking of pictures of you, did you see? We were super hungover. We've told this story when we had those professional headshots at the office a couple months ago, and we did get the photograph of you, your headshots from that morning. They have come to light. Keith Murphy somehow got his hands on it. This was it. This was you that morning after a night of drinking. It doesn't look that bad. You look, about the same as you do right now.
So that's a pretty good job making me look like I'm balding. I think they also added some yellow to my teeth.
That is no joke, by the way.
What's no joke? Balding?
That was
Yeah,
the
when guys are
leftover
balding.
chew from Cooter, I think.
So Keith puts that out, probably thinking that it was going to upset me the way it upsets him when I put out pictures of him. It doesn't. It's hilarious. You got to laugh at yourself. That's funny.
Do you have one blue eye and one brown eye?
Let's see. Zoom in. Did they screw with my eyes too? I think they did.
You're like,
God. I think they put one ear lower than the other one too.
I was gonna say your ear looks bigger. See, this is what you get with our
that looks like a guy
Wild
who
Rose extra time.
put Oreos all over his crotch.
God, I don't. Please don't. If I bald,
That looks like a guy
I'm
who's
not going to look good
at the coal miner's daughter game, walking around the lots.
All right, give us your locks, Williams.
All right. Well, I'm going to start. The one I really like, and this is the one I bet the second it came out, was I like Kansas State over Colorado, laying
Really?
the 4.
I've been burned by those buffs too many times
I
this
have
season.
too, and this is why I'm going the other direction. It's just we were so impressed by what they did against Central Florida. Take a step back, to quote the great Gary Patterson. Take a step back, take a look at your life.
Gary Allen?
Gary Patterson.
Oh.
The Colorado should have lost to Baylor. You know, like whatever. They made a great play.
Yeah.
It was a good moment. Should have lost to
But
Baylor.
isn't there's just there's magic with Shador and with Travis
Maybe.
Hunter late in games. You saw it last year against Colorado State.
Will you
There's
hear me
just
out?
some weird magic going.
So
mountain magic.
They should have lost to Baylor. Then they were wrongly 2 touchdown underdogs at Central Florida, where half the team is like mulling quitting at the time that we didn't know about it. This is why betting on college sports is so insane, because we don't know what these like kids are going through in their lives. Kansas State is coming off of a bye. I know Colorado is too, but this is a very physical football team. And I'm sorry, I like Chris Kleiman in this spot to go and just abuse this Colorado.
God, that's the same thing we said about UCF, though.
Yeah, but I got a lot more faith in
This is-
Kansas State than I did Central Florida. I'm laying the 4 here.
Okay.
With Kansas State. Pittsburgh -3 over California.
We are both on this, Williams.
Yeah, because it's
This
like
is
the
one of my
spot,
locks.
right? Okay. Well, Cal blows that lead in dramatic fashion. I still don't know how Miami won that game. And now you got to go 3 time zones. Pitt's undefeated. This is like a no-brainer to me. You just bet it. Even if you don't know the teams that well, this is a spot bet. I'm playing Pitt -3. And then the other one, I threw this in there last minute. I'm going to play Iowa -2.5. That's what I got it at when I bet it. Iowa -2.5 over Washington for all the reasons that I outlined earlier. I think that this is a low-scoring game. I think that Washington's kicker sucks. I think that
Look, he's made some huge kicks in his career. I saw it firsthand last
Kid's got
year.
the yips, Hassel. He's got the yips.
He won them games against Oregon and Washington State, and they put him on scholarship because of that. Like, he was a hero last year. I don't know if he's as bad as you're making him out to be.
Watch him win on like a game winner.
I tell you, he's done it many times.
I'm gonna go with my gut here. This is gut more than it is anything. I'm gonna play Iowa minus 2.5. If this gets to 3, like Matt said it was earlier, I don't think I would bet it at 3. But anything under a touchdown, I would go Iowa.
As Zach says, your 6-9-1 record does not bode well for our Iowa Hawkeyes.
Absolutely not. You are correct, Zach. Nor does me picking Iowa State to beat West Virginia. I feel like that's the kiss of death for the Cyclones. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt them.
I don't think I gave my prediction on that Iowa game, by the way. I think you moved on before I was allowed to give my official
Give me
prediction.
Iowa 20-13.
I just want to make sure my score lines up with what I gave Randy Peterson for his article.
I haven't posted that column. I'm going to do it right after we get off the air here.
Did we get Murph's picks?
I believe they came in at the last minute.
Jesus Christ.
After you and me had to pressure him.
Unbelievable with that guy. I think that this is the game that Kirk Ferentz has been able to win in years past. This is where the season's on the edge. You've got like the Minnesota, you've got to win it, or else things could start to crumble. This is like that Ferentz culture game where he circles the wagons and Iowa comes out and wins this game. Like I said, I don't think Washington's pass defense is one of the top in the country. This is a game where
Iowa gets like a pick 6 or something. And
yeah, it's home.
Yeah, like this
should be a good environment. They're striping the stadium for this one.
Oh, stripe. And the sophisticated Iowa fans will be able to pull it off.
They'll be able to do
y'all
it.
Are doctors and lawyers and you're drinking your
always
martinis in the tailgate lot.
I think Caleb Johnson goes for over 100 yards. Iowa 23, Washington 17.
Yeah, okay. So we're real close.
All right, so those are your locks. We talked
Stone Cold locks.
We already talked about Pittsburgh -3 against Cal. I feel like those teams are evenly matched at best. I think Pittsburgh might be the better team. They've got it at home, and Cal's going across the country.
We're pretty good when we agree on a game, for what it's worth.
I have 2 other ones for you.
Okay, let's go.
We talked a little bit about Ohio State, Oregon. I am a believer that Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten and perhaps the best team in the country. I've been at Oregon for a big game. I think that atmosphere is overrated. I don't think Oregon is one of the top 5 atmospheres in the country.
Well, they're all high.
It's not a big stadium. It can get loud. It's not big. I think Ohio State is just better. Like, look at Oregon last year. Dan Lanny's a great coach, but they could not get over the hump against Washington. They couldn't beat Washington in the regular season. They couldn't beat him in the conference championship game. They could not win their conference. Do we really think a year later, you sub out Bo Nix for Dylan Gabriel, that they're going to be able to beat Ohio State? I don't. I think Ohio State wins this game maybe by 2 scores. So give me Ohio State -3 in Eugene against the Quackers. And now to the SEC. LSU +3.5 at home against Ole Miss. This is a funky line. I don't understand this, which scares me a little bit. Why is LSU a 3.5-point home dog? I do think Ole Miss might be a little better, but this is Death Valley. This is an LSU team that has been tested this season. If you're going to give me a field goal and the hook, I've got to take that. LSU lost that season opener to USC, and on paper right now that looks not good, not as good of a matchup as it was because USC has lost to Michigan and Minnesota. But I feel like the season kind of turned for LSU when they came back and won against your mom's Cox in South Carolina.
It feel like these Kelly teams just are always way better in October. Like they just keep getting better.
Yeah, I think they have had some issues early, and they've
they
kind of
always
figured things out.
But they always play those tough games early, and it feels like they lose them. and people are down on them, where in reality it's like, well, I don't know. How good is USC, I guess, but I don't hate your read here.
All right.
I don't hate it. I don't
Those
hate it at
are
all.
Centurion Stone, Cold Live.
Steeple Ridge, cheers to the freaking weekend, everybody.
Cheers to the freaking weekend. Let's raise our glass of Steeple Ridge bourbon.
Oh, baby. Oh yeah.
Steeple Ridge.
You guys know who plays tonight, right?
Who?
Brock.
Niners.
Purdy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good Thursday night NFL game. We got a good one last week. It was, what was it, Bucks, Falcons that went down to the wire? This is really good. 49ers in Seattle against the Seahawks. Winner will be in first place in the division. Both of these teams coming off disgusting home losses as touchdown favorites. And Nick Bosa said, this is basically a must-win for the Niners. Gotta have it. On the road in Seattle, that environment.
Yeah, look at the Niners, their schedule coming up. They play the Chiefs. They've got Dallas. They got some tough games coming up, so this is definitely a big one.
Will you shut that kid up?
Put a placenta
She's
in that
cheering
baby's
for
mouth.
Brock. Go, Brock.
Did she just yell, big cock Brock? Is that what I heard that baby yell? So Maddie's going to be locked into that. I do want to point out how to find Steeple Ridge bourbon. I'm a black label guy. Something tells me Hass will be more of a white label guy, a little less alcohol in it.
What's the black label, like 190 proof?
It will kill you. No, I think it's 100. I think it's 100. I don't know. I'd have to look. I got a couple bottles over there. But you need to request it. If you go to your liquor store and they don't have it, request Steeple Ridge bourbon. They are a great Iowa company. You can also you can get your own single barrels with a custom label through our friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon. We did that last year. It's how we got the Iowa Everywhere one. So very cool.
If you go into a liquor store and you ask where it's at and they say we don't have it, you just need to demand.
Yeah,
like,
you just say like,
listen here, pal.
Yeah, because that's how these liquor stores know that it's in demand.
Because my
And it's
dad,
a premium product.
My
It's
dad
not
did
like-
that. He went into a store somewhere in the Quad Cities, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Where's
why?
where's your Steeple Ridge?" And he said, "We don't have Steeple Ridge."
Well, I need it.
And so he
now.
was just like, "Okay, bye." So you're telling me he should have like,
Yeah, could you get it? Like, could you work on getting that for me? I'll be a customer of yours.
okay.
But if you don't, then fuck you.
I think Steeple Ridge would be way too much for my dad. Like he can't handle. He's a Michelob Ultra drinker.
He could handle the white label. He would like it, I promise.
The white label.
Yeah. You know, it's my favorite kind of weekend, a road game. So I'm going to sit at home and watch all the games. I am going to go tonight and watch the Clarinda High School volleyball team taking on rival Red Oak.
Just terrible.
It's going to be amazing.
That's how you're going to spend your Thursday night.
That's it, baby.
Oh,
2.5 hour drive.
see, this is why
5 hours in my
I don't
truck.
have kids. This is why I moved
Just to
away
give
from
the
all my
nieces a
family.
hug. I'm going to do that
So I don't have to
tonight.
do anything like that.
And then I have a Halloween party on Friday night.
What? Like what? For kids?
Yeah, it's a kid. No, it's a adult one.
What are you going as?
Willie Nelson.
You should have gone as Diffie, Joe Diffie.
Diffie's going as Diffie.
Oh, is he? He's got a mullet?
Diffie's I'm getting Diffie a like a jean jacket. And then we're going to like poof up his mullet. Yeah, it's going to be great. Whole family's going as country artists. That's what we're doing this year.
Are the kids
And then-
going too?
Yeah. Cammie's Lainey Wilson. Elise is Alan Jackson.
She's Lainey Wilson?
Yeah.
She's the Lainey Wilson's the one in the song where the guy's like, I pulled up, I saw her beat to hell, so I picked her up and I said, who the fuck did this to you?
Get in the truck.
And she said, he's living in that house right down the road. So I drove on over and went inside and blew his head right off. Wait in the truck. Just wait in the truck.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Get in the goddamn truck.
I could have run, but I said fuck it, and I just waited there for the cops. I lit one up and puffed one out, and I said he had it coming to him.
I love that song.
Just get in the goddamn truck.
Just
That's a
get in
good
the
song.
truck.
So then he goes. So the guy goes to jail for the rest of his life.
Which I find it kind of rude that the woman in this song, like, she only visits him every now and then.
Yeah.
He says, it's
She'll
like,
come
she better
around
be sitting her
every
ass
now
over
and
there
then.
waiting for you to wake up every morning.
It's a conjugal visit, but they don't let us bang when she's coming in.
In jail for the rest of his life. It was a woman. He was driving through a town, sees a woman beat up on the side of the road, has never met her before, goes and kills the guy that did it, and then goes to jail for the rest of his life. That's the song.
Yep. That
And it was
really
all
is
worth
the
it.
song.
And it was all worth it.
And she's like talking about, she's playing mental gymnastics. You know, oh my God, is he a maniac? He killed that guy, but he's also an angel because he saved me. It's a really, really intense deal. Yeah, that's my
I took
daughter's
that
Halloween
12
costume.
gauge to his head and brains were splattered all over. Get in the truck.
So I'll be watching football on Saturday after that. What about, so you are you hurricane cleanup? What are you doing?
Not really. There's really nothing to clean up. There's some sticks in the pool. I'm gonna have to fish those things out of the pool.
Poor bastard.
For the most part, it's okay. I'm looking forward to this weekend. My wife's supposed to be going to Chicago to go wedding dress shopping with a cousin of hers. So you got
horrible.
She kind of bosses me around if she's here.
She tells you to get in the truck.
You get in the house.
Hey, you get in the house.
Like, wait, because last weekend I stayed up until those Saturday night games. I was up until 2:30 in the morning watching those late night Big 12 games. And
some of that Steeple Ridge, baby.
And so then if I'm up, the dog's up, and the dog's barking and wants to play, and she goes out of her. Anyway, she's supposed to be out of town. It's perfect this weekend. I've got Iowa early. I'm so glad that there's finally an early kick. I'm sick of these night games. That
Next
Iowa,
week, another freaking home night game.
how is Iowa at Michigan State the primetime NBC game? What is going on? That's in a couple weeks. There's not enough good Big Ten matchups to go around between all the major networks. Anywho, we're in double overtime now.
Yeah, we got to go. Sirens didn't even go off. Appreciate all of our listeners. Really to Wild Rose Casino for stepping up for overtime. This is going to be a consistent thing, and it's cool because
Maybe
our listeners deserve a little
at
longer
some point
show.
we'll talk some college basketball.
Yeah, that
How
was
about
on the
We
list.
just did 93 minutes and didn't talk college basketball. How it should be.
Appreciate you guys.
This is how it should be in early October.
Next week, I'm going to get you to talk a little hoops.
We'll see.
He's Chris Hassel, Maddie Van Winkle producing. Please rate, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff wherever you check out Iowa Everywhere. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe.